Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for this news conference. Public safety is our community's and my administration's top priority. We act on this priority in multiple ways. Some of the ways that we advance public safety, like the brand new firefighting equipment we recently received, are highly visible. We also act on this priority in less visible ways that make our homes, families, and businesses even safer. One of those ways is to make sure that our community is prepared for severe weather events like droughts or floods. Today, we are ready to prepare our community for what the science and data on flood risk in Lincoln has made clear and compelling, that this is a public safety issue. And the way we build and grow our community is an important part of public safety. This is especially true of development within areas prone to flooding. The floodplain maps that our city currently uses to plan and build vital infrastructure were created using rainfall data from 1961, over 60 years ago. For the sake of comparison, imagine a farm family using 60-year-old weather data to make crop planting decisions. We don't have to imagine what flood risk can look like in our community. Many of us remember the intense storm in May of 2015 that dumped 7 inches of rain in Lincoln. And this storm resulted in Salt Creek reaching its highest level in over 100 years, prompting voluntary evacuations of the neighborhoods along Salt Creek and causing millions of dollars in damages. The good news is we have the updated rainfall data for Lincoln on which to base sound decisions going forward. The bad news is that we know that our existing floodplain maps are too low and do not account for how those updated rainfall patterns will magnify future flooding. As a result, our residents and businesses currently in the floodplain, as well as those seeking to develop within it, face increased risk of flooding. Now, in response, we have engaged our partners at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and started the process to update our floodplain map based on the most current rainfall data. However, we know that this remapping effort is likely to take 5 to 8 years to complete. We need to take action in the interim to update the flood protections that will help keep homes and businesses and ultimately people safe. The protections being updated come out of an extensive analysis performed over the last 3 years to determine the need and create recommendations. That technical work has been supported by stakeholder groups from across the community, engineers, environmentalists, business owners, neighborhood representatives, and more. In addition, we held 4 community workshops over the past summer to refine the flood protections to ensure that they addressed safety in a comprehensive and efficient way and were responsive to the feedback we heard from the community. Now, I am bringing forward these important updates to our city's Flood and Water Quality Protection Manual. These updates will help keep our residents safe and dry and help keep their properties literally and figuratively above water. It's important to emphasize a few things about these updates. First, the vast majority of neighborhoods in Lincoln are not located within the floodplain and are unaffected. For those seeking to build within the floodplain or make significant changes to their existing property, FEMA studies show that the associated incremental construction cost of building to a safer standard is quickly paid back by lower flood insurance premiums. Second, these flood protection updates are based on a proactive approach built on years of public input and scientific study. In fact, the need for the updates that we are bringing forward was established by the Salt Creek Floodplain Resiliency Study, which began back in 2019. A diverse group of stakeholders then reviewed these flood protections and many others at workshops held over the last few years. Third, we are committed to continuing to work with our builder and developer communities to increase the supply of housing at every price point. However, building unsafely is not an affordability strategy. Let me repeat this important point. Building unsafely is not an affordability strategy. Instead, our city employs a number of financing tools, incentives, and strategies to increase the supply of both affordable and market rate housing. And we have the resources and the policies to ensure both safety and affordability. By taking action now, we will help ensure affordable housing is built safely. We also will help our community members in the floodplain protect themselves, their families, and their businesses from the increased risk of floods that data and our own experience has made clear. With that, I'd like to invite up Donna Garden, our Assistant Director of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities, to share more details about these efforts.
Thank you, Mayor. Over the last 30 years, flood reduction and prevention has been essential to the safety of the community of the city. As a partnership with Lower Platte South Natural Resources District, we have taken a proactive approach to protect new and existing development from flooding, erosion, and water quality hazards. This has come in several forms as we collect new weather data and community input that helps guide our flood management decisions through the years, including our efforts to update the Flood and Water Quality Protection Manual. Lincoln Transportation Utilities prioritizes public input and engagement. Our team understands the community's voice is crucial in order to move forward with a variety of programs and projects as we work to keep our current and future neighbors safe and Lincoln's essential services in full operation. Our team has offered several opportunities for the public input. After holding 2 stakeholder meetings hosted by Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, the city took a 10-month pause to review and evaluate data and feedback collected. After this review period, we worked to gather additional public input and held 4 more public workshops where we reviewed the community's feedback, data, and possible solutions, including in the now recommended changes. Many of the updates you see today are based on important data collected in the Salt Creek Floodplain Resiliency Study. The city's Watershed Management Division conducted this study from 2019 to 2021 and the support of the stakeholder committee and technical experts. The primary focus was to illuminate how floodplain management measures can be strengthened and further reduce flooding impacts to existing infrastructure, local businesses, residences, and future developments, and enhance floodplain resiliency in Salt Creek. The study also evaluated the impacts of utilizing updated rainfall and precipitation data. Study results show an increase in flows in Salt Creek and all tributaries of Salt Creek that are 15% higher than the flows used in our current floodplain maps. Not only are the total rainfall and creek flows increased, the National Weather Service Office of Water Prediction reports rainfalls that will be more intense than what Lincoln has experienced in the past. Increased severity of storms and increased flows indicate that the entire Salt Creek watershed, including its subbasins, are at higher risk of flooding near current, new, and renovated development in or near the floodplain. As the mayor mentioned, Lincoln's existing floodplain maps elevations that utilize rainfall and precipitation data are from 1961 and are outdated. Lincoln's floodplain maps are too low by approximately 1 foot based on the latest approved rainfall data from FEMA. Most homes and businesses in Lincoln are already located well above the floodplain elevation. For these areas of Lincoln, the Flood and Water Quality Protection Manual will not affect them directly. But for those in and near the floodplain, these updates are for you. This means, beginning in 2023, new construction within the floodplain, major renovations of 50% or more of the value of the structure within the floodplain, and construction immediately adjacent with low elevations need to be built 2 feet higher than the current floodplain elevation, not just 1 foot as the requirement stands today. Our proactive efforts to update building and development standards will pay off in flood prevention and flood insurance savings for the entire community. Raising elevation of the ground will protect property owners from the risk of flooding that exists now and the potential of being mapped into the floodplain in the future. In fact, according to the Natural Hazard Mitigation 2018 report, on average, $1 spent on hazard mitigation provides approximately $4 to $11 in future benefits. These flood and water quality protection manual changes provide additional security and future viability for residents and business owners who are investing in these properties. This manual offers multiple flood prevention solutions that will protect future development, the environment, and water quality around us. It assures that all infrastructure for drainage, that includes pipes, culverts, and detention ponds, are sized based on the updated rainfall amounts. It clarifies minimum stream corridors where water runs on streets and assists with erosion and sediment management. Although not part of the changes being made to the Flood and Water Quality Protection Manual, our watershed management team has received a grant to begin work with FEMA to update Lincoln's floodplain maps the next several years. This non-structural effort is just as important as our structural flood prevention projects like Antelope Valley Project near 21st and P that removed 1,000 homes and businesses from the floodplain and saved millions of dollars in additional flood insurance costs for residents. Or our efforts elsewhere in the city, like near Dead Man's Run in University Place neighborhood, that will remove over 400 homes and businesses from the floodplain. We continue to investigate the cost and benefits of structural solutions, such as reservoirs and off-site water storage, that will provide similar projects. These solutions will protect Lincoln's families, homes, and businesses by keeping them safe and dry at the cost that is less than 1% of the investment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you to our team at LTU. I mean, this is an announcement today, but this is your ongoing work, day after day, month after month, year after year. So thank you for that enduring effort.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Foster Collins, who has served on many community committees that worked on flooding and floodplain issues over the last 20 years. Foster, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Foster Collins. I'm a longtime resident of Lincoln. I retired from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln after a career there of almost 40 years. I've been a supporter of Lincoln Parks and Rec, a longtime member of the Sierra Club, Wachuska Audubon Society, and Friends of Wilderness Park. Lincoln has a long history of working together to develop smart community protections. In 2004, I served on the Floodplain Management Task Force, along with many other stakeholders: developers, environmentalists, neighborhood representatives, business owners, and many more. That process involved discussions on how to update flood protections and standards in a way that protects the community and still allows our continued growth and economic prosperity. I think it's obvious that implementing the community flood protections in 2004 certainly did not impede Lincoln's growth or our quality of life. To the contrary, they guided Lincoln's growth in safe and successful ways. In the meantime, that planning to prevent flooding has encountered a new challenge: rainfall made much more intense by climate change. We already know that our current regulations are inadequate to keep people and property safe in areas where they will be at risk from the ensuing increased flood levels. Our FEMA federal flood maps are outdated and don't consider these intense rainfall events that we all have been seeing. It will be some time, 5 to 8 years we're told, before we have new and more realistic maps. While there are those who will argue for delay and more studies, we already know that flood levels are rising, the floodplain is expanding, and some of our citizens are at risk and may not even be aware of it. So while the proposal in front of us today will move Lincoln forward and should be adopted, we should adopt it with the knowledge that the climate and our own city's growth are in a dynamic relationship, and there will still be important work to be done in the future.
Thank you so much, Foster. Thank you for your service to our community. We really appreciate and believe and know that Lincoln benefits. We benefit as a community because people like Foster step up and get involved. And at this time, I'd like to ask Grant Daly with the South Salt Creek Community Organization to come forward and talk about the impacts of flooding on Lincoln neighborhoods. Grant?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Grant Daly. I'm the former president and representative of the South Salt Creek Community Organization. The South Salt Creek neighborhood lies directly east of Salt Creek and runs from about O Street south to Van Dorn Street. South Salt Creek is one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city and was settled by immigrant families in the 1870s. Much of the neighborhood is a landmark historic district. We celebrate our past, but we also believe strongly in the future of the neighborhood. as an affordable, diverse, and thriving place to call home. Both the history and the future of the neighborhood are inevitably connected to Salt Creek itself. Prior to the levees being constructed in the 1960s, the homes in our neighborhood faced severe flooding and loss every time a major storm hit Lincoln. Even today, flooding and flood protections continue to be a significant concern for the neighborhood. As recently as 2015, the neighborhood was impacted severely by flooding. Some neighbors were rescued through emergency evacuation, and some faced significant loss. Between 2019 and 2021, I served as a neighborhood representative on the Salt Creek Resiliency Stakeholder Committee. We worked together as technical consultants and experts to understand how the changing climate and increasing rainfall totals presented additional challenges and risks not only to our neighborhood, but to the homes and businesses across the community located within the floodplain. The study showed how our flood maps do not accurately reflect the depth of floodwaters due to increased rainfall. The final study and report contained recommendations on how to increase flood protections for our community. The proposal coming forward to Planning Commission and to City Council contains many of those recommendations and protections. There has been good discussion on the impacts to older neighborhoods with the increased protections. As the mayor said, it is important to build safety, and the city has resources to help close any affordability gaps. Updating the standards is necessary so that people choosing to make a substantial investment in their home or business know that they are building safely and that the investment is protected. We know these updates are just one part of a number of flood protection strategies that the city has underway and will continue into the future. These flood protection updates are an important step. The South Salt Creek Community Organization appreciates having been involved in these important community conversations and policies and look forward to continuing to work together for strong neighborhoods and community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grant, for your service to your neighborhood and on the committee and to our community. Strong neighborhood associations are a key reason why we have such a high quality of life here in Lincoln. And at this point, I would like to invite Dan Marvin, our Director of Urban Development, to come forward and speak about how the city provides incentives to help support high-quality affordable housing and how we partner with developers to help close funding gaps they may face. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor. We have worked with builders and developers on affordable housing projects, including projects within the floodplain. In 2004, the Antelope Valley Blight Redevelopment Plan was enacted, and a key component of that plan was flood protections, not only on a macro level by taking large numbers of structures, as Donna talked about earlier, out of the floodplain, but also on the individual level with projects like Creekside Village, built near Salt Creek, but at an elevation that put them out of the floodplain. Tax increment financing was used to help protect the residents from flooding. We use affordable housing funds and TIF resources to help close any gaps caused by building at a safer level. For example, our new 20-year TIF adds an additional 20% in resources to help. We want to build in the core, but we want to be smart and safe with those developments. By using all the resources at hand, we can offset small project costs increases that have a large, quick payback. For example, building safely only increases project costs by 0.25% to 1.5% and can easily be paid back by savings over the next 2 to 3 years with lower flood insurance costs. These are thoughtful updates that help support both our goals of affordable and safe housing. Mayor?
Thank you so much, Dan. So as we prepare to move forward with these flood protection updates, I want to highlight 2 upcoming opportunities for further public engagement. The first opportunity is the Lincoln-Lancaster County Planning Commission meeting this Wednesday at 1 p.m. in the City County Chambers at the City County Building at 555 South 10th Street. The next opportunity will be at the Lincoln City Council meeting on Monday, December 12th at 3 p.m., also in the City County Chambers. And again, I just want to emphasize that the need to take steps now to ensure the public is safe from flooding is why we're moving forward. And every month we wait is just another chance for a home or business to be built unsafely and too low. They will be flooded in a major storm event. So it's time to take action now to protect our community. With that, we would be happy to take any questions from the media who are here in person or via Zoom.
Using a floodplain map from so long ago, what was the reason that it was so outdated? Sorry.
Donna Garden add additional details, but basically we have new rainfall and precipitation data that informs the floodplain map, and we do regular updates. And I think what we're cognizant of is that we have the new data that says the maps are inadequate. We're moving forward with remapping, but the time to get to this point is 5 to 8 years on the horizon. In the meantime, we have people making investments, people who are considering building or remodeling, and we want them to build to an adequate safety standard. We don't want them to pour money into their home or business only to be flooded when we know that the current standard isn't sufficient. Do you have anything to add to that, Donna?
Yes, just briefly, these are approved data sets from FEMA, and the last one that was approved was called Technical Memorandum 40. It was from 1961 data. And then this next one that we have, we're using the more updated one that was just approved by FEMA.
Why do we know why it's going to take? Why is it going to take like 5 to 8 years? Why does it take so long?
The maps to be updated, we have to do survey work of all of like the new bridges, new detention ponds, new everything that went into the city in the last 50 years or more, I guess. So that survey work takes time, and that's why it takes that much so long to be able to get all of this done. It not only uses the new precipitation data, but we also have to do that work as well.
I know you said that this is obviously a matter of public safety, but is there any like specific reason that you guys decided to tackle this problem right now?
Happy to take that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this work is ongoing. As I mentioned before, Lincoln Transportation Utilities regularly issues stormwater management bonds, and we've been so grateful for the public's support in advancing stormwater protections. We are constantly looking at how to make sure that building in our community is done safely. And what we have now is this new updated data. We've actually been engaging with the public for almost 3+ years. So we feel like at this point, we've got the information we need, we've got the feedback from stakeholders and technical experts that we need, and we're going to continue to do this work. Today is one step of several steps that we're taking to try to protect Lincoln's people and businesses and structures from flooding. As we said, we will be getting these new maps that will help us. We will continue to engage with stakeholders on larger structural protections, but things like an Antelope Valley project took decades to come together between the financing and the plans and the construction. Things like Holmes Lake Dam, they're expensive long-term solutions. We want to work towards one of those, but in the meantime, we don't want to have people building to an inadequate standard. But we have a responsibility for their safety. We can't let that go. So we're moving forward now.
So I know you guys said that there are resources to help people be able to build affordable quality housing. Where should they seek those resources out? Like, what is the best route for them to be able to achieve that?
Well, I'll let Dan Marvin come up in just a moment, but I would just say that as a city, with the support of the City Council, we have invested in affordable housing funds. We have been working with the private and philanthropic sector to create an expanded mission for our community development financial institution that will be helping to finance affordable housing projects. And our urban development team, through the course of their day-to-day business, administers federal funds to help support housing. Dan, do you want to come up and provide more?
Stole
Oh,
all my thunder. Yes, so we are the lead agency on administering tax increment financing. So larger projects that would need or qualify for tax increment financing, we're already working with those developers, and future projects that would come forward, they can certainly come through our office. There are also HUD and other dollars that are available on smaller type projects, and then on case-by-case basis, we do have resources through our affordable housing funds that would be available to help homeowners on cases where there might be a renovation of over 50% to assist them with some of those additional costs too.
We have several questions from KFOR.
One more thing on your question before we take KFOR. We have existing safety standards today, and it's a 1 foot level above the floodplain. So anyone, any business, any homeowner who'd be looking to do this kind of major renovation or to build already has to meet a certain standard. We're just taking that standard up a foot. So it's an incremental difference in cost.
First question from KFOR. Do you have any plans to help increase the safety of structures within the new floodplains that aren't being upgraded or rebuilt? Do you have any plans to help increase the flood safety of structures within the new floodplains that aren't being upgraded or rebuilt?
Well, what I would say on that kind of general question of community safety is that one of the reasons we have a climate action plan is to be realistic about the climate risks we face and the impacts on real people. And so as we move forward with our climate action strategies, we are going to be looking at how we protect people, how we raise awareness, how we inform neighborhoods of the risks they face, and work to come up with plans for community action that is in addition to government action.
The next question is, what is the timetable and action path for final adoption of the new regulations?
This proposal goes before the Planning Commission this week, this Wednesday, and then it will be before the City Council in December. I believe public hearing is on the 12th, with final action on the 19th.
And last question, does the current work on Deadman's Run comply with the new flood maps, or is it going to be outdated when complete if it's being done with the current maps?
I'll bring my expert up here.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm looking at my other expert in the audience, Tim Zock. He's our superintendent of stormwater. So come on up and see if you can answer that question. Thank you.
Yeah, the Dead Man's Run flood control project is being designed using the updated rainfall as well as looking at future projections so that there won't be properties put back into the floodplain.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Did the drought this last year, has that affected any of this data, or is it going to be playing into the future planning of this?
That does not affect the data that we're using for this update, but it will go into future data as updates come along, yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate your coming to this news conference, and again, there'll be opportunities for further public engagement before the Planning Commission and the City Council in the coming weeks, and we'll see you there. Thank you.